What's going on, guys? This is Dave from PNP, and I'm here to talk to you about Underdog Fantasy. I just want to remind you that it's the easiest place to play. There ain't too many places where you can win 20 times your money in the same night, utilizing higher lowers in the Pick'em game. And now they have Pick'em Insurance, where while you won't win the same amount of money that you did before, you can miss one and still bring home some money. So if you do it 3 times, you could potentially still get your money back if you end up missing one. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up today and use the code PNP when you do. And the $100 deposit match still stands. Underdog Fantasy. What's going on, guys? This is Dave, one half of PNP, and you're here at the Fantasy Hour. We're going to go over some things today. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I just got back from Atlanta yesterday, so it's been a while. You know, it was pretty good weekend down in Atlanta. Tough game to watch because I went to go see South Carolina State and Jackson State play, and South Carolina State got the brakes beat off of them, unfortunately. But overall, it was a good day. Is my audio good? I'm pretty sure it should be good, and I'm going to try some things in this show. We're going to see how it goes. What up, D'Angelo the Legend? What up, Lunch Break Hot Take? So let me know if the audio is good, bad, or indifferent, because I'm checking things out. I'm trying a different audio setup right now. I'm hoping to improve the audio for the show. So we're gonna go from there. I'll keep the comments going just in case somebody says there's something else is wrong with the audio. But like I said, I hope you guys had a good weekend. Atlanta was interesting. I went to the National Center for Human Rights, which was pretty good. You know, highly recommend. Checked out a bunch of things there. Look, man, I always pick on SWAC about the Southwest Athletic Conference about physicality within their conference, but unfortunately they had it. They had it. It felt like Jackson State was playing more like a MEAC team, but that's kind of expected considering T.C. Taylor, the coach of Jackson State, got his coaching chops from MEAC programs before he went back to his alma mater at Jackson State. But shout out to them. They played a phenomenal game. Next week will be interesting to say the least. Now, I'm glad that the audio is good. Tomorrow, unless Rashad's watching, he's going to be in for a surprise because I got other things that I'm trying out too. And I might throw it in here later, but we'll see. You know, I got some sound effects. Can you guys hear this? Can y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that sound effect? I just want to see if it works. It might not work, and if it doesn't, it's fine. I mean, I'm still experimenting with some things. But you know. So the first thing I wanted to talk about tonight was the concept of keepers. The concept of keepers, because I got a question about it on Twitter, and I'm just going to give you my philosophy on keepers, and some people agree or disagree with how I feel about keepers. If you got, depending on the player that you're trying to keep, it's based on the round value. So, for example, if you want to keep Travis Kelce and it's going to cost you a first round pick, it's probably worth to keep Travis Kelce because he's got a first round grade. So I prefer to try to keep players that are at least worth what you would have to take them for. Now, granted, sometimes you might not know what the pick's going to be yet. Like, you don't know yet if you're going to have the first pick or the 10th pick. You don't know. So that's the risk you have to take with regards to that. But I'm a believer in keep players that are at least above the value, at least at or above the value of the pick. Here's another example. I drafted Justin Jefferson, I think in like the 7th or 8th round a few years ago. All right. He's projected to be the number 1 overall pick. So I'm pretty sure you think I'm going to keep him. Yes, I am going to keep him. Yeah, man, absolutely. For the patrons, I am going to do a Zoom. I did not do one last week because I had a lot of other things going on, but I will be doing a Zoom tonight after the show. I didn't set it up yet, though, so I will do that, and I will post on the Discord probably immediately during the show or immediately after the show if I got some downtime, but I doubt I will tonight. But I will be posting it right after. I forgot to set it up. This matter of fact, let me go in and do it now while we talk. But the bottom line is when you're talking about keepers, it's about leveraging the value. Typically, I prefer to try to keep running backs, wide receivers, and you know the only tight end I'm willing to keep is Travis Kelce. Some leagues it's based on the round that you draft them. Other leagues is you got to give up a first or second round pick, which makes that even more difficult because there's only probably at that point you're talking there's only 24 or 25 players worth keeping. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with making a decision to not keep anybody if you don't feel like you got somebody worth keeping with the first or second round grade. So don't sacrifice picks if the player's not worth it. I'm not as concerned about whether or not he can be replaced because the way I see it is the worst case scenario, I'll just redraft him. You just make the decision, but you redraft him where he's supposed to go. Okay? So you got to have some level of strategy with it. And I'm going to give you like an example of my league. I'm in a keeper league, and I have to keep 5 players. And the way it works is the first year you keep the player, you only got to give up the round that you took them. The second year you keep a player, it goes a round up. So let's say I said Justin Jefferson was in like a 7th or 8th round. So the first year, let's say the 8th round for the sake of clarity, right? Because I can't remember what round. It was later. I'll tell you that. So let's say I took Justin Jefferson in the 8th round. So if I keep him next year, I only lose the 8th. I lose an 8th round pick. If I keep him the following year after that, it's 7th. The following year after that, 6th, and so on. So in my scenario with Justin Jefferson, I'm probably going to ride with Justin Jefferson until he's old because he's the consensus number 1 overall pick right now. So for me, I would rather just keep him. I would probably definitely keep him as long as I can. Some players, you're not always going to get that. You're not going to always get that benefit. There's other players where you might not even consider doing something like that. So it all depends on what you want to do with regards to that. So just keep that in mind when you try to make a decision on how to handle keepers, because sometimes it might not be worth keeping your guy. Now, if you're concerned about the scarcity of a position, that's a different story. But there's only one scarcity at a position, and that's tight end. Or if you really want to keep a Patrick Mahomes, but then you ask yourself, is Patrick Mahomes worth a first round grade? Um, that's the thing you got to decide whether or not Patrick Mahomes is worth the first round grade or not. So those are the type of things you have to take into consideration when you do it. Josh, I have a dynasty league right now that I got 2 slots left, but I want to get this thing filled tonight. So if you're interested, let me know if you are interested. Just reply in the chat that if you're interested. I do have a dynasty league. It's a $50 buy-in. And I'm hoping to randomize the picks once I get it down. But yeah, I got 2 slots remaining. For folks who are listening, I got 2 slots remaining in the dynasty. I don't have any slots in the redraft. The redraft is full. But I do have some slots left in the dynasty. But if I don't fill the 2 by the end of this show, I'm probably gonna turn it to a 10-team dynasty instead of a 12-team dynasty, because I want to go ahead and I got 10 folks already ready, and I want to go ahead and get the ball going. The redraft already got their picks. They already know when they're going to pick. The draft is already set, and I want to give the same courtesy to the 10-man. So, all right. But yeah, so like I said, with keepers, you just got to take that into consideration. I'm going to pull up my league in a second to show you what I'm talking about. Give you an example, and I'll show you my team, and then I'll show you, and I'll go through why I made the decision that I did with regards to each player. Let me see. But yeah, give me 1 second, guys. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. All right. Sorry about that. It's starting. It's a brand new fantasy league. It's starting. This is the first year. I told the guys in the Patreon that I was going to do a fantasy league and a redraft. All right, answer that one. Y'all don't want to hear my opinion about this comparison. I'm not as high on Deshaun Watson as others. I think Daniel Jones has the potential to get more fantasy points than Deshaun Watson this year. I know folks don't want to hear it, but that's just how I feel about it. I feel like that is the case. So you know, but I think it's going to be close. But I think Daniel Jones probably potentially has more upside. I'm not the Deshaun Watson experiment got me thinking a lot more things than you realize. I'm not as high on Deshaun Watson as others are. But yeah, Josh, it's a brand new league, man. Just let me know. And it's a super flex too, so you got to draft 2 quarterbacks. That makes it even more interesting. Sleeper. Just shoot me a message on Twitter, man. My Twitter handle is right here. Just shoot me a message on my Twitter. I mean, either way, it's fine. I mean, I think they're low end QB1s. Both of them are low end QB1s for me. It's like tomato tomato. Both of them run. Both of them get rushing yards, and both of them can throw the ball okay. The Deshaun Watson experiment is interesting since he's been in Cleveland. Yeah, sooner the better, man, because I want to go ahead and get this thing filled. All right, so, but that's down on keepers. But let me do this share real fast. All right, let me see here. Bear with me for 1 second while I share my screen. And there's going to be a lot going on, too. There's going to be a lot going on. Let me see if I can change this separately so y'all can actually see it, because I know y'all can't see it the way it looks right now. That's a little bit better. That's a little bit better. By the way, that dynasty league I'm talking about, like I said, there's 2 slots remaining, but at 10, I can reduce it to 10 and get this ball rolling. But yeah, so if I can get 2 more people tonight, then I'm gonna leave it at 12. Otherwise, I'm gonna reduce it to 10. The redraft league is full. So I prefer 12-team leagues, but I'll do a 10. I'll do a 10-team dynasty. It's fine. And then we got my this is the oh yeah, I've been talking to you guys about my slow draft for dynasty. It's done. It ended. I had to put 3 players in taxi, and the 3 players I ended up putting in taxi, I put 2 tight ends and a quarterback in taxi. Tell you how important I feel about tight ends. But the keepers. All right. So here's my team. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? Yes, you can. Not sure how you feeling about it. Look, man. Drafting is like my favorite part of fantasy is the draft. That's like my favorite piece. What's going on, Jimmy? Let me see. All right, so here's the guys here's my choices. Trevor Lawrence, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley, Zay Jones, Justin Jefferson, Marquise Brown, Travis Kelce, Terry McLaurin, Jacksonville Jaguars defense, Geno Smith, Trey Lance, Kareem Hunt, and Deontay Foreman. All right. So the 5 that I picked were Saquon Barkley, and the reason why I picked Saquon Barkley was the second year of the league, somebody dropped Saquon Barkley, and I used up all my free agency budget to pick him up. And at the time, the rule was it's based on when the player gets picked up from that individual. So, for example, because I picked up Saquon Barkley from waivers, I would only have to give up the last round pick to keep him. So that's why I went after him. They changed the rule the year after that. A lot of people complained, but it was based on what the rules were at the time. So the rules got changed after that happened because somebody dropped Saquon Barkley and I spent my entire fab budget. And then come to find out I didn't have to because nobody else went after him, but I didn't care. At that point, I was thinking about next season. Sometimes you got to think that way. So he's going to probably be a keeper until his career is over because He's going in the first. There's some leagues I've seen him go in the first, but the latest he's gone is the second. So that's too good of a value not to do it. Justin Jefferson, if I remember correctly, when I took him in the middle rounds. So that was a no-brainer. Same goes for Terry McLaurin. Travis Kelce was my I took Travis Kelce in the second round. He's now worth the first round, but now it costs a first round pick because I've had him since the beginning of the keeper league. So I'm willing to give up my first round pick to keep Travis Kelce because right now Travis Kelce is a top 5 pick. So I'm willing to give that up. I pretty much have a number 1 pick and a 5th round and at worst 5th pick in the draft, and I only have to give up 1 round here, and I think this is probably like a 5th or 6th round here if I remember correctly. So that's nothing. That's minor details. When you look at the other players that I have, I ran the Geno Smith train. Oh, I didn't even talk about Trevor. Trevor wasn't drafted, if I remember correctly. So he's gonna cost me a bottom pick too. So I don't care. Everybody else, Joe Mixon, too high. Zay Jones, too high. Marquise Brown, I think I had to take him in the 4th, too high. Jaguar defense, yeah, whatever. Geno, I thought about keeping, but I think Trevor's got more upside. Trey Lance, he's in Dallas now. No, throw him back in the pool. Don't need him. Kareem Hunt, he doesn't have a team. Donta Foreman, there's talks that he might get cut. And everybody else isn't worth it. Now, granted, these were low-round picks, but it's about keeping folks that I'm going to start. All 5 of these guys are starters. And in this league, you get points for, like, attempts. So you must be talking about Christian Kirk. I think he's going to affect Christian Kirk, but not as much as folks think he's going to affect Christian Kirk. So yeah, I think Ridley's going to be the 2 in that offense, not the 1. I think Kirk's still going to be the 1. That's just my opinion, though. But I will say this: if Kirk takes too much, this is how I'm going to feel. I mean, if Ridley takes too much, this is how I'm going to feel. Because straight up, I literally just made a trade. I'll show you that trade too. But this is how I would feel if Kirk's targets fall significantly. That's just how I would feel. It would be devastating if that happens because I traded in another league in my high stakes league, the live draft that I did about a week ago. I traded George Pickens for Christian Kirk. So, somebody wanted Pickens bad, and I said, let me see what the trade looks like, and they offered me Christian Kirk, and I took that in a heartbeat because I feel like Christian Kirk's still going to be the 1 in that offense. Yes, his targets could potentially go down, but not down to the point of George Pickens. Now, George Pickens could potentially be an upside guy. I like George Pickens' upside, but I feel like I needed a sure thing with things going on. So I wanted more of a sure thing because Pickens is still the 2. Deontay Johnson is still the 1 in Pittsburgh. I just want to remind you guys. And I think the Deion Johnson slander is kind of wild. Like Deontay Johnson has played pretty well for Pittsburgh. He didn't have any touchdowns last year. That's hard for me to believe that's going to happen this year. How was I tripping? Pickens ain't going to be the 1. Would you rather have a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 for a team? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Both of them are potentially going to be run first offenses. Potentially. But Doug Peterson likes to throw the ball around, so Trevor's going to have more opportunity. Would you rather have Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball to the receiver, or would you rather have Kenny Pickett? This is the question you need to ask yourself. Okay, we're going to see. We're going to see. I think Kirk's going to have more fantasy points than Ridley. I'm confident of that. But all right. I'm not doubting that Pickett looked great. But let's see how he looks in the regular season. I like Pickett. Don't get me wrong, but you think it's gonna be better than Trevor Lawrence? Just a just a honest question. And do you think the Steelers are gonna change the way they operate historically to let Pickett throw the ball or wherever he wants to throw the ball? I just think there's more opportunity in Jacksonville than there is in Pittsburgh when it comes to that. That's just my opinion on it. So those are my 5 keepers. There's the only thing, if I would make any switches, it would be between whether Geno and Trevor. But I think Trevor is going to be the higher rated quarterback, so I'm going to keep him. And I still might draft another quarterback potentially. But but the key too is you got to think about what type of league this is, right? You got to always consider that. But when you look at somebody like, all right, so Justin Jefferson, I could tell you what happened with Justin. I took him in the 9th round, and I've been keeping him ever since. And I'm going to continue to keep him. But yeah, I took him in the 9th round. So that answers the question right there. Travis Kelce, I took in the 2nd. That was really good value for me at the time. Yeah, I took him in the 2nd. It cost me a 1st round pick though. So yeah. Terry McLaurin, I know I took him late. I took him. Oh, I got him on waivers. Yeah, I took him on waivers. I don't know why I thought I drafted him. But yeah, so 14th pick. So 14, 13, 12. It's going to cost me 11th round pick this year. Whatever, right? I ain't too worried about that. Trevor was from waivers too, if I remember correctly. I picked Trevor up from waivers. Yep, he was waivers. Well, hold on. 9th pick. Oh, so he might cost me an 8th round pick, or he might cost me a waiver pick, which is still, I'm going to keep him. I'm not worried about that. I should ask the commission, get verification. But either way, I'm not worried. I'm not too worried about giving up a pick like that. Considering my other options of who I could keep, I'm going to keep him. One time I put Josh Allen back in the pool. I still regret that decision. I should have kept him. In hindsight, I should have kept him. But anyway, that's that. Like I said, man, I have 2 slots for this dynasty. I might only have 1 left. But I want to get this thing. I got to get this thing rocking. So let me pull up the rules real quick so you guys know what the rules are. There's fab bidding. It's pretty much standard scoring. Let me see. Settings. Roster settings. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, and 1 super flex. So no kickers, no defense. You got 11 players on the bench. All right. That's what it's going to be. So y'all can have a blast with that. And here's the dynasty league that I'm in now. We're gonna see how good my team is, man. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. I'm starting Jimmy Garoppolo and Russell Wilson as my quarterback, so we're gonna see. We're gonna see. I got a Panther in there too, so you guys don't be thinking I'm being 2 guys, but I am. I got the former Panther as well. Bijan was my first pick in this league, so we'll see. And I had to put 3 players in the taxi. Those are my 2. And by the way, for those who don't know what a taxi is, it's basically the taxi is a place where you put your players, but you can't touch them all year. It's like guys that are like not ready yet. They're grooming. So those are my taxi players right there. I mean, this was a 23 round league, so you gotta. So you can see some of the players that are here, like Tyrell Thornton and all these other guys. But yeah, so that's it for the sleeper. Let's see here. That's that. The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about before I shut it down. I've been giving you guys over an hour in the fantasy hour, so you might get a little less today. But the thing I also wanted to talk to you guys about, my Twitter handle. Here's my Twitter handle. It's at champd1012. That's my Twitter handle. Just send it there. I thought about this. The dilemma I have is time, but I'm thinking about doing something like that on a separate front. But I'm working to figure out the best way to do it. Um, you guys know that I do a lot of HBCU coverage too, and so there's some things coming down the pipe that I would like to do. That includes esports. Uh, let's just say I feel like we don't play enough fighting games in esports. On the HBCU front, they mainly play sports games. I want to change that. I want to help change that. So I'm working. I got some ideas. I'm gonna start linking up with the right folks and see what we can do. But I also want to do it. So I have thought about doing. I used to run tournaments. Um, believe it or not. So I ran tournaments while I was in college. So I would love to get back into that as a hobby. I just got to find the time, and it's because that does take a lot of time. Um, a lot of time. And with two kids, time is not as valuable. Time is very valuable right now. Um, but the other topic I wanted to talk about was the fact that I've been in a couple drafts so far, and I got a bunch coming up next week. Um, and one thing that I've learned and realized is that the draft starts at number two. I think like, and you kind of like that. Like I know a lot of times there's always a debate on who's the number one pick, and sometimes there's like two or three people that could potentially be the number one pick. But I think this year the consensus is Justin Jefferson's number one overall. And then you can debate on whether or not you want to take Jamar Chase or Christian McCaffrey or some other running back at number two. But the consensus right now is absolutely positively Justin Jefferson. And it's kind of odd having a wide receiver as the top pick. You don't see that often nowadays. But Justin Jefferson is just that good. And if you can figure out, if you can pull it off and pair him with Kirk Cousins, man, that might be chef's kiss. Because that means you're not spending too much value on quarterback to do it. Because Kirk Cousins is still going to be a pretty good quarterback for you. From that standpoint. So I wanted to just put that out there. It might be obvious, but yeah, the draft this year starts at 2. Um, I've seen Chase go 2. I've seen McCaffrey go 2. But ultimately, the draft starts at 2. I say all that to say, I've gotten some of my picks, and I got one league I got the number 1 overall pick, and another league I got the number 2 overall pick. Um, you know, so I believe that the draft starts at 2. Some people will say it starts at 3, but some people think it's Jefferson Chase, and then there's a debate on who should go 3. But I think some people still have that philosophy of they got to take a running back regardless. But I think that there's going to be exceptions to that rule if you got a number 1 overall pick. You're going to go with Justin Jefferson, which is not a bad pick at all. I think Justin Jefferson plays is pretty in a PPR league is pretty reliable from that standpoint. It's weird seeing a wide receiver at the top of that heap though, but based on the numbers and based on the way that the running back position is starting to morph into, it makes sense. We're almost at the point where the wide receiver is just as valuable as the running back. I don't think we would ever see that day, but I think we're there now because more and more teams are doing they're having committees. Even Christian McCaffrey, he's going to be sharing work, but we trust that he's going to get enough work to do what he needs to do. I think he's going to be sharing. I think somebody's going to take 10 carries off of him a week, maybe more. They definitely did that last year, but it didn't really affect McCaffrey. McCaffrey still ended up being like a top 4 running back in fantasy last year, if I remember correctly. So, you take that into account when you start making those decisions about who should you take at 2. if you have the second pick, if you're that fortunate to get the second pick. Because, you know, sometimes you might not be able to get that pick. So Tyreek Hill's an interesting one at 3. Wouldn't be shocked at all. That's an interesting one at 3. No ifs, ands, buts about it. He is an interesting one at 3. Yeah, man, Miles is going late. I think folks are spooked by the injury. They're saying he's gonna be ready for week 1. So, but if you're taking Miles Sanders in 7th or 8th round, you're good to go. What up, NFL kid? Let's see here. I should check and see something else too. But this has been an interesting turn of events from that standpoint. Hold on 1 second. Got one more thing I need to change. But yeah, man. If you guys got any fantasy questions, feel free to put them in the chat too, because I want to take on many questions as I can from that standpoint. So feel free to put it in the chat. Yeah, I'm trying to get something squared away so I can send the Zoom to the folks who want it. I typically do a Zoom right after. So let's see here. So I'm over here wheeling and dealing. Let's see here. I was in Atlanta, bruh. I wasn't. Look, Rashad knew. Well, Rashad might have forgot. I told him I wasn't going to make the live game because I was in Atlanta. That game was on Friday. I saw some of the game. I still haven't watched the whole game yet. I'm gonna watch it before kickoff tomorrow, though. Before the show tomorrow for sure. I was in Atlanta. I was in your parts. I was going to the game. I was going to the MEAC Swag Challenge, and I was going to those events. So I wasn't thinking nothing of it. So that's where I was at. Thoughts on Hyatt? I think Hyatt's interesting. I don't think I would have him higher than a wide receiver 3, low end, wide receiver 3, high end 4, maybe a flex. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm almost a believer because he plays for the Giants. I'm almost a believer in Daniel Jones, but I gotta be cautious with rookie wide receivers. Tight ends are our wasteland. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna make that a sound bite. Tight ends are our wasteland, y'all. Tight ends are a wasteland. Um, crapshoot, tight end. I mean, every tight end after Kelsey could potentially be a steal because you don't know who's going to be number 2. I think people are assuming who's going to be number 2. But we don't know who's going to be number 2 when it's all said and done. Don't believe me? Let me show you. Let me see if I can pull up the data real quick. I don't know if I can go into the history, but let me see if I can see scoring leaders. There we go. There we go. Let me pull this up for y'all real quick, so you guys can understand why I feel the way I feel. All right, let me do a quick share for you guys. So here's your top 4. Here's your top. These are your top tight ends in fantasy from last year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 here. Can I expand this a little bit more so you guys can see a little bit more? I want to get all the way to 12. I can. All right, get you all the way to 12. Yeah, all right. All right, let me move myself out of this for a second so you guys can see the whole 12. Get that out the way. All right. So the first thing you need to notice, the first thing you must notice, the points are on all the way on the far right hand side. So Travis Kelce had 316 points. And the guy that was second place, second highest, was 100 points lower than Travis Kelce. 100 points. Over a span of 17 weeks, you're talking, that's almost a 6 point per week delta. A 6 point per week difference between the guy that's first place and second place. All right. And then you got Kittle, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, Higbee, Pat Freiermuth, however you say his last name, Cole Kmet, Taysom Hill, who got his points probably playing quarterback more than tight end. That's a guy I wouldn't mind starting every week, by the way. Like if I'm like deciding to pick a tight end late in the draft, and my choices are Hill, Schultz, and Joku, I'm probably gonna go with Hill. And the reason why I'm gonna go with Hill is because they're gonna put him at quarterback at some point. And when they do that, he's gonna get those points. And even if I get it like 5 times a year, that's still worth it. Because at least I know I'm gonna get 5 good days of a tight end. So, Schultz, who's on a new team, and Joku and Goddard. Those are your top 12 tight ends in fantasy football last year. If you notice, Goddard got 141.2 points. All right. So, and the other thing you should notice is that between 12 and 7, 6, between 7 and 12, there's only like a 7-point delta between that. And if I keep going down, I mean, DeJuan Johnson's value goes up with the whole thing going on with Jimmy Graham, but I mean, wasteland. At one point, this kid Tyler Conklin was the second best tight end in fantasy during the season. Wild to think, undraftable guy. So I say all that to say, if you ain't getting Kelce in the first round, you need to be waiting, and just wait as long as you need to wait. So that's just my opinion when it comes to the tight end position. And by the way, here's the thing and I'm about to show you why Kelce is worth a first round pick. If I do this, Kelce was the 8th highest point getter in fantasy football from the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. 8th. So Eckler, Jefferson, McCaffrey, Hill, Adams, Jacobs, Diggs, and then it's Kelsey. 8th highest as a tight end. I mean, he went through the roof when they got rid of Tyreek Hill. So that's why Kelsey is the first round, has a first round grade in my book. So when folks wonder why, I feel like it's Kelsey and everybody else. That's why. But like looking at variances of positions says a lot. So when you look at, let's look at quarterback for a second, since we're in this vibe right now. Let's look at quarterback for a second. So quarterback, you got Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Burrow, Geno. Those are the top 5 guys, and then Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins. All right. These are the top 10 guys right here. Daniel Jones, Jared Goff. That's your top 10. You want to see 12? Fine. Herbert, Brady. Brady's retired. All right. So after him is Rodgers. Rodgers is with the Jets. So you think he would probably get a little bit of a bump. And Lamar, he was hurt. But Lamar will probably be high up there too. But if you look at 1 through 5, all right, Mahomes and Allen, they're close. You're talking 20 points, 22-point delta. I mean, that's a point or two a week. That isn't, it's insequential. Hurts, but once you get past Burrow and you get into the 300s, I mean, you're talking between Geno and Herbert, you're talking a delta of 23 points. So less than 2 points a week. So when I tell you guys, unless you can hold off, that's what I'm talking about. You can hold off. Right? So Lamar, if Lamar stays healthy, it's kind of wild because Lamar wasn't healthy and he still was like 14th. He's 14th. Right? Wild to think, but those are the breaks. If you can wait, you could get good value here, and then you could build the rest of your roster. Like Mahomes is Mahomes, Allen is Allen, Hurts is Hurts, Burrow is Burrow. Geno came out of nowhere. Geno was 5th last year, guys. And I guarantee you Geno's not the 5th quarterback taken in these drafts. He's not. He's not. So, like, that's why when y'all hear me tell you guys, you can hold off, this is what I'm talking about. Because my theory has always been, if you get a Geno Smith, if you get a Trevor Lawrence, if you get a Daniel Jones, okay, you might have an advantage. That means you're not spending too much round capital to get them. And you might have an advantage here. And you got to start 2 of these guys. And in some leagues, you got to start 3. Same goes for this. Like, if you can get 1 or 2 of these guys, what? That's what you want to do. So that's why I feel the way I feel about it. But, like I said, if you're going to take Kelsey, that's the only person you should be taking. Everybody else in the tight end position is a crapshoot. Because, look, we know what the order's been. It's been Kelsey, Andrews. Then after that, it's between Kittle and Hockenson. Then after that, all right, now what? You can go with Ingram, or maybe you'll go with Waller. But it's a hodgepodge. Goddard's probably your more safer bet if you want to keep it a buck. After the Fab Four, I would probably go Goddard after that. But even then, why? Why? Those are the things you got to ask yourself when you start looking at the numbers and looking at the data. Like, why would you make the decision to go that route? Because those are the things that you have to take into account. But yeah, I mean, I've always felt that way when it comes to certain things, certain positions. I put certain value on certain positions. Like, would I take Travis Kelsey in the first round? Yeah, in a heartbeat, if it's the right place to do it. Because you got to remember, when you make a decision like that, you have to treat Travis Kelsey as another wide receiver and not necessarily a tight end. I mean, that's the argument for me about taking him in the first. Because, like, the second best tight end is TJ Hockenson at 215. right? So at the wide receiver point, to get down to 215, you got a long ways to go. You're all the way down to Garrett. You and Garrett Wilson, Jerry Judy, DJ Moore, potentially territory. Chris Olave, who's up in the charts now. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what I mean by that. When you talk about running backs, 215, yeah, you're down here and you're down in this area here. Kenneth Walker, who took the job mid stride, right? That's where you're at. So you shouldn't pay a high round value to get somebody like a Hawkins. Like, yeah, he's the second or third taken, but you shouldn't be paying too much capital. Is what I'm getting at. Whereas when you look at a Travis Kelsey would have been the fifth best wide receiver in fantasy football. The fifth. So you got to treat him like a wide receiver one. That's the attitude I see when you draft a Kelsey. In essence, he's a wide receiver one. So he's up there with your Justin Jeffersons, your Tyreek Hills, your Jamar Chases, Devontae Adams, your Diggs. Like, he's up there with those guys from that standpoint. When you think of it that way, you can understand why you take Travis Kelsey in the first round. So that's just my opinion on that. I know I went on a whole rant about tight ends because whenever somebody asks me about tight end, I'm like, whatever. I'm almost to the point that after Kelsey, I treat tight ends like kickers in defense. I got to start one. I'll start one. If I get some points from him, great. If I don't, all right. Because my advantage is going to be in all the other positions. Like, I'm only going to probably run into Travis Kelsey twice, 3 times at the most. Right? You got to think about it like that. You're not going to run into Travis Kelsey type of situation. In one of my leagues, I did draft Kelsey in the first round. I drafted Kelsey, and then I drafted Kelsey, and then I got Mahomes. But I got Mahomes at good value. I think I ended up taking him in the 4th, if I remember correctly. Actually, I could probably pull it up if I'm logged in. Oh, no. That's a different league. This is the one. Yeah. Let me see. I think I showed y'all this before, but I'll pull it up again. I didn't even check. There's something else I probably should check, and I'll check it later. But yeah, I took Kelsey. No, I took Mahomes in the 3rd. Which was fine. I was fine with taking Mahomes at that point. The value was there to take him there. And I was still able to get Garrett Wilson, Gibbs, and Damian Pierce and McLaurin, so I wasn't mad at that. And I had Deontay Johnson and Pickens, which is why I was willing to trade Pickens away, by the way. And it's funny because the guy I traded him for took Kurt right after. It doesn't matter. The trade's already in at this point, but I almost took Kurt there. Part of it because I already had Pickens. I already had Johnson. So I didn't want to have Johnson and Pickens. But, it is what it is. We'll see how it goes. We'll see who's right and who's wrong. I like the value of Deontay Johnson in the 7th. I think a lot of folks are slandering Johnson a little bit, in my opinion, but, it is what it is. All right, let me see. We'll stop that. All right. But, man, this was a fun episode. I'm glad I got into my little tight end spill because I think it's important to have those discussions. Shout out to the 704 shop. Really great shirt right here. The Rhino shirt for Bradley Bozeman. Love this shirt. But on that, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Me and Rashad will be live tomorrow to go over all these cuts. Looks like the Panthers ain't cutting nobody right now. But tomorrow listen, I just want you guys to be, I'm going to say this as a message. Be considerate, guys. Don't pick on players that get let go. I know you guys typically be in your best behavior, but there's a lot of folks that are going to be losing their jobs tomorrow. And it is a tough day in the NFL. I will say, I had a conversation, like when we met with Steve Smith, we talked about like cut day, and let me tell you, and that was separate during lunch. We talked about cut day, and it's a different perspective. Even when you're somebody that you wouldn't expect to get cut, it's still a different perspective for players like him, who for most of his career never had to worry about his spot. So, it is one of the toughest days for players in the NFL because a lot of folks are going to be losing their jobs. There's still some teams that have 90 players on their roster, and they got to cut it down to 53. All right. So Just keep that in mind when you guys go through it. Follow me, follow Panther Nation at Panther Nation PC. We're going to be trying to update you throughout the day, but tomorrow is a rough day in the NFL. To get down to the 53-man roster. But we plan on going live at 8 o'clock as always. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.